All right, hello. Another episode of Heavy Art Talk. We have your usual host, Lee, here. I'm extremely honored to have Chad Keith as a guest here. I'm sure if you guys follow him on Instagram or you've seen any his work with comics or albums, but he's got a very signature style, primarily using a lot of really bright kind of neon colors on like a black contrast, but he has a lot of versatility as well. Just really brings you back to like the 80s in a really authentic way. And I really love his art. He's based out of California right now. He's done work with bands such as Creepshow, or bands and brands, so to speak. Creepshow, Atomic Witch, VHS, OCs, Foreseen. And he's got a lot of really cool work coming down the pipeline that he can't share quite yet. But please welcome me in joining Chad to the stage.
Hello, Lee. How's it going?
It's going good, man. So you were telling me backstage that you're having some pretty big blackouts, and you're kind of in a more rural area of California?
Yeah, we're like by, Yosemite.
Oh, yeah.
So that kind of area, like there's bears and cougars and stuff roaming around the streets. And
nice. Must be beautiful then, huh?
It is, but you get to trade off of power outs all the time, forest fires, flooding, and just all kinds of fun stuff happening here.
How long have you lived out there?
Well, I lived on and off here. I used to get in a lot of trouble when I was younger. So the first time I lived up here was like doing work release and community service. And my family moved up here when I was in high school. Okay. But I'm from the Bay Area, but I stayed in the Bay Area. Like I was like, I ain't moving to the mountains. And so when I was in high school, I had my own apartment and everything, and just wild, completely wild.
So what years was that then when you were in the Bay Area? Because there's been so many cool shifts and so much music and culture that's come out of there.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and I was part of I was never in a band, but I knew everybody. Like, so it was pretty awesome. Like, it's the Bay. I'm from this place called Fremont, so it's kind of the suburbs next to Oakland.
Oh, okay.
And it's right next to it, but you would think it's like another planet the way they seen people from Fremont, they're just like East Bay scum. And, it's just like, it's just the suburbs right out there, so.
So it was like the thrash scene then that you knew those guys?
Yeah, when I was in high school, my friends played in bands and stuff, and I hung out with these girls, and they knew. So the first guys I met was the 90s Possessed. And they were really good friends of mine. They did like that demo, the 93 demo, and their roommates were like Forbidden and what's that? Paul Bostaff was around all the time. And it was wild. Like, but at the time I was just like, whatever, I don't know who these people are. They're just my friends, and later on I was like, holy shit, I got to grow up and all this stuff, so it was wild, and I was this young guy, and it was pretty awesome. And then like we go to studio parties and like Tupac would be there because he was in Digital Underground, and I was like, dude, we got to party with Tupac.
It's unreal, man.
Yeah, but back then it was like the Bay Area is a small place. It seems to me small place, so it was like big deal. Everyone kind of knows everybody, and there's the punk scene and like Gilman and all that stuff. Like it was cool, man. And then I moved in. I had a roommate. Like I got into the hardcore scene, and my roommate, he played for this band Powerhouse. So all the bands that would come touring stayed at our house, and like I would come home, and it was like, oh, there's Lars Friedrichsen sitting on the couch because he produced them, and oh, there's Meshuggah. They're telling me, and I was like, oh, you guys are from Sweden. I'm going to Finland, and it was just crazy. Like, but at the time, I didn't care. Like. It was like big deal. Madball's coming this weekend. I'm like, I'm going to go up to the mountains. I wish I took more advantage of it,
Yeah. Yeah. But only in hindsight, cool. You realize how big it truly became. Have you seen that?
Once I moved to Europe, it was.
Yeah.
Everyone's like, these people? I'm like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen that, the doc, the Murder in the Front Row? I wonder if that brings back some memories for you.
Was that the.
It's like a thrash metal doc, but mostly Bay Area focused.
Yeah, like I think my first show was like Violence, and I think Rob Flynn was singing, and he's from the same, area I'm from, and those guys were always like my roommate played for Machine Head. He was the drummer, and he played for Madball, and what is that? Attitude Adjustment and all kinds of bands.
Wow.
But I was just like, yeah, whatever. It's just these bands were so small to us. Like they play bars and stuff. And then when I moved to Europe, it's huge shows. Like, whoa, you guys are nerds. Like,
Yeah.
Like thousands of people. I was like, whoa.
It's a different level, man.
Yeah, it was a trip. Like, we were just jaded. Like, big deal.
So you went to Europe, and then how long were you there, and what part?
17 years. So I moved to Helsinki for a little bit. Then my wife, she's Finnish. We moved up north, like where people like riding horses on the street and there's tractors and all that shit. So we had to stay there for a while. And then we moved back to Helsinki. So I was there for 17 years, and it was crazy. Like, I started to get panic attacks because I was like, holy shit, I've never traveled. And I was like, holy shit, I'm living here now. I don't know what I'm doing. Why did I move here? And I was
That's a long time too.
Yeah, I loved it though. I totally loved it. It was the best. The people there were great. And I miss it. Me and the kids, because my kids were born there, so they're Finnish, and they miss the snow and all that stuff. Like, because it's 8 months of winter over there. So
wow,
that kind of sucks. Darkness.
And is your Finnish decent then for like an American, or?
No, just a very basic.
Yeah.
So I would speak Finnish to people, but in Helsinki they all speak English.
Okay.
So they want to practice English and shit. So I was just like, whatever,
Yeah. I'll make it. Yeah, I'll give you some practice to make it easy for myself.
Yeah. That's how, like, the only thing I would say is like, uksen olut kitos, like 1 beer please at the bar, and just the basic shit to get along. I can go to the stores, and I took a lot of classes, but I just didn't care too much. I was like the ugly American, you know what they say, like USA. But it was at the time when the Iraq War started, so it wasn't too cool being an American there.
Right.
So. But I was like, who's gonna step to me? They're not used to violence and too much,
Yeah.
The normal people. So
how did you meet your wife then? And this all kind of like started in terms of the move out there and everything.
Yeah, so close up here, like we were having 4th of July, we're going to Dom Pedro's big lake. So I was on my way, and then I got pulled over and got harassed by the cops. And I was like, well, I ain't going to Dom Pedro. They tore my, because it was early in the morning. I was like, just go in the trunk. I got beer and tents and everything. And they're being dicks, They finally let me go. And I was like, oh, there's all these Swedish girls and Finnish girls. Like, I got to introduce myself. And we've been together for, married almost for 23 years, I think.
Nice.
And so it was wild. I was wild until I had my kids. And then something's like a switch flipped, and I was just like calm and no more getting into shit, and, just being really chill. And Finland helps with that because people aren't so aggressive there. Like here, people are dicks in America. Like,
yeah, definitely.
You might get shot or stabbed all the time. It's like there, everyone's cool. I seen one fight in 17 years, and I went to all the hardcore shows, punk shows, metal shows. One fight, and these guys were just pushing each other, and that was the extent to it. And I was like, this place is great. Like they got it together, not like here. People are nuts, road rage, and yelling.
So what about like art for you? Did you start as a kid, or did you kind of start a little later in life?
Yeah, like I started as a kid, I'm sure you heard this a million times. I just heard it yesterday, copying comic books. And, like I used to get the Marvel universes, and I would copy every character. And that's how it started. And I got like pretty good at drawing. And I won a bunch of awards, each year, like elementary school, junior high. Mm-hmm. I got some shitty scholarships, like $50 here, 50, and the San Francisco Art Academy is like $100,000 a year or whatever. So I was like, I ain't going to art school. And I come from a really blue collar family. So it was like, you need to work for the city or BART, like art's not like a thing you do. And I had some work injuries. I was working at a warehouse, and I was unloading a truck, and I got stuck and snapped my knee. So I was bedridden for a while, and I got all these magazines, and I got juxtaposed. And I said, you know what? I'm pretty good at art. I'm going to make paintings so I could have around my house. And so for the last 20 years, I just painting, like obsessed with it.
Yeah.
Became super obsessed. And then I had another work injury just recently, like a year ago. I fell down the stairs here because I was running with a bunch of bins. So I screwed up my legs and I was off work again. And I was like, now I'm going to do it professionally. I'm going to quit work, stop working part-time, and just focus on art because I'm losing money working part-time, you know.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. You've been able to make the plunge then into full-time.
But the problem is I'm so alone, you know, in my own bubble. So sometimes the real world could be scary now. And I've gotten a few bouts like agoraphobia, you know, like that I've had to work through. And it's just like, I don't talk to people anymore or do, you know, just my family and don't get out much. So that's a problem. But
well, that's part of the reason of the channel too, you know, is so because I know I work full-time and do this currently, like art, and this is really just a passion project in terms of the podcast. But I think if I didn't have that job, I would be definitely a lot loner and stuck in my head a lot. So
yeah,
that's kind of part of the reason too, is just so artists can talk with one another. And, you know, we're often our own worst critic and enemy, and we kind of lose sight of like, even if our stuff is good or not.
Yeah. Well, that's how I am. I'm like, dude, I'm such a hack. You know what I mean? But people are buying it, so whatever, you know. Yeah, and it does. Like, I think a lot of artists have like some kind of a lot of mental issues and stuff like that. Like, I know I do, and I've heard a lot of others that do. So it is like you gotta. It's best doing something else, you know. Like, I really got bad once I was home. Like I said, just straight up agoraphobic. I couldn't even walk around. Like, I have nature around here, and I had a hard time. I went to therapy and stuff, and
nice.
Got through all that, and I was like, dude, what am I doing? You know, like created my own prison, you know, art prison. So,
well, you're super prolific, man. It's like every day I see, you know, almost a new piece from you. It's like almost every other day you see halfway done, and then it's like it's crazy how much output you are putting out, man.
That's just half of it. Like there's another half you're not seeing because it's all coming out later.
Right.
I've created this like assembly line of painting, you know, like it took me 20 years, but I found out how can I do this quicker?
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting with oil paintings taking a month, and you know what I mean? And it's like, no, this ain't going to work. People like it, but it ain't going to pay, you know? So I have to think of something else. So I'm on as you can see, the skull stuff, but it'll change to something else later. You know, I'll burn it out and try something else later. And because I always feel like, man, people still like it. I'm like, they're not burnt out on seeing the same stuff. Like, but for me, it's so easy. Like I can do a painting in 30 minutes, you know, just boom, boom, boom. And I guess that's coming from, like I said, a blue collar family. We have like this work ethic, and I've been working since I was 14, like doing construction with my dad. And, you know, like he was pretty hard where we had to do stuff, you know, so. And my brother owns like a logging company, and he's the head of the mill up here. So he's doing two things, you know, like just crazy.
Yeah. I think like kind of to your point too, though, is like speed and effectiveness. So not like sacrificing the, you know, result. I think that is a aspect of art that a lot of times people don't focus on because they think that there's like a sacrifice to it. But once you get to a certain level, emphasizing speed's important because ultimately you're trying to think about livelihood. Otherwise, you know, it really is just a hobby, even if you're really good.
Yeah.
So that's a good point.
Well, that's what it used to be for me. So it was just a hobby.
Yeah.
Like when I did like the Foreseen covers and all that, I just did stuff here and there. I wasn't making a living from it, you know, so I just like to paint. And I used to do like copy tons of John Singer Sargent, Rubens, and I would just throw them in the garbage, and all my friends would dig them out of the garbage. Like, what's wrong with you? I was like, they're just practice, you know, like hundreds and hundreds, you know, just for years. And that's just what it is. It's just repetitiveness, and the people think it's boring, but it's like, that's what you got to be. You got to live and breathe this stuff. You know, you have to be obsessed.
Oh, yeah.
Otherwise, forget it, like, because that's how it always was with me. Once I started painting, I was obsessed with it. Because you'll never reach the top. It's like a staircase. Like, you're there, you'll never reach the top. Never, So you can only get so good in your lifetime. And
that's the fun chase, though.
Yeah. That's why I'm obsessed with it. Like, I look at stuff like Sargent, and it's just like, Jesus Christ! I just go and put a splash of paint, and it's like, it's so amazing. Like, never be like, and Sean Cheatham, he's doing it now, where it's just like you look at it and go, damn, he does that stuff like in 30 minutes, but it's a repetitiveness too, he's got it down. Like, I love seeing that stuff where it looks simple, but it's not simple. Like, you can't do it unless you dedicate your life to doing that,
Yeah. So it's cool you bring up like Sargent too, because, well, it was like not the first artist I thought you'd mentioned. You know what I mean? Like, in terms of like just like an inspiration of sorts. Because for me, I'm not doing a lot of the same subject matter as him, although there's like figure stuff. But just like from a technical perspective, it's like unreal, and it's good to have those like people who, yes, they're not perfect, but they're kind of as close as you can get in certain aspects. So it's good to, like, I don't know, just learn as much from them as you can, and then it's kind of good to have a little bit of like the mythological person to kind of like chase to a certain degree. It can get unhealthy to a certain degree, but I personally like having that. Like, I have a whole book on his watercolors, and he's only doing
they're insane, his watercolors.
He's only doing like 2 layers max. It's just every stroke is perfect.
Yeah, and that's what I've read a lot. I tried to find everything I could about him.
Yeah.
And he just knew where to put that stroke. Like, he would sit there and think about it and just, and then move back for a while. And it's like, Jesus, man, how do you do that? Like,
well, all plein air, like outside.
Yeah.
Like, that's what's cool too with that book I have, is you see him. There's like, let's say he's doing like a ocean front scene, and it's like boats and stuff. There's literally a picture of him, old ass picture, and it's just him on the rocks, just like barely like even standing there, because it's like definitely like uneven, and he's just putting it down. It's like, oh my God, what a badass.
Yeah, that stuff drove me nuts. I took a class in Finland on this fortress island. It's like a castle, and that's what we used to do. And people were like, why are you so into this old stuff? And I would tell them, and they thought I was a freak. I was like, you got to learn the classics. Then you break it down into trash. And that's what I've been doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I learn all the fundamentals, and that's like, I want to break it down and get as trashy as possible. Like, I learn the hard stuff first. Not mastered or anything like that, but just trying all the techniques and, all that stuff. Because it's like I taught myself. So it's just, like I said, it took me 20 years to teach just for the junk I'm doing now. It's a long process teaching yourself. So
when did you first pick up like the airbrush and stuff?
Just recently. I had one when I was younger, and I sold it to my brother, I think for weed or something, to go buy some weed. I just couldn't get it.
Yeah.
And then I started really obsessing about Richard Corbin and Enzo Schiotti. So I was like, I got to incorporate airbrush in this. And that just sped up everything for me. It's a minor part. People think it's what I do. And it's like, no, it's just such a minor part of what I do.
Yep.
It's mostly brush work, and I just add little details here and there, Well,
that's why those like in-process videos that you post on Instagram were helpful for me, because I'm learning airbrush as well. And I'm trying to figure out, it's like, okay, to me and what I'm trying to achieve, and it seems kind of similar to you, the airbrush is just like that one like tool you use for like 30 minutes. It takes like fucking 30 minutes to clean up. And it's not really that enjoyable. It's just like it achieves the purpose you want.
Yeah, because I'll paint. That's why I paint on black now. And then I'll do it all in color.
Yeah.
And then I'll take an airbrush and color it, and it just the color just blasts off that, And then I'll put like some highlights and a little bit of smoke or whatever, and that's it. I'm not drawing anything with an airbrush. It's just basically to put color on and little highlights, and that's it.
What's the best way to get that like flat color?
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're always gonna get stroke marks, which if you
Yeah.
want that, perfect. But there are times when I don't want it, and that's why I'm
Yeah.
picking it up.
Yeah, I've tried it with, the same paint that with the brush, and it's like, nah, it doesn't work. Like, you have to use an airbrush to get those really vibrant colors, because it leaves a little bit of cloud too, so it makes it even look brighter than it is. Like, it's a cool little thing. It took me a long time to figure it out, even though it's so easy. It's very simplistic.
Yeah. Well, getting that your finger ready for like the press down and back, and not like letting off, that takes a second, mentally, with the back and forth.
Well, I take a piece of paper or cardboard, and I spray into that and then move along, because sometimes paint will splatter everywhere, and I don't put the back of my airbrush. I use the needle, so I move it constantly. You know what I mean? Like, push it forward, push it back. And it's all stripped when I use it. I don't use it, put together, because I don't know how to use it.
I just watch like YouTube videos, and I look at how somebody who does some awesome like art tutorials every Monday is David Finch, and he's been doing these like mixed media paintings because I like using like the professional grade like colored pencils. I'm like an advocate for that shit. Like, I know some people think colored pencils are like a shit medium, but no, if you know how to use them, they're great.
Yeah, I was just looking at your stuff, the colored pencil, and I was like, "That's colored pencil." I thought it was paint.
Well, that's why I like it, man. Like, some of the nice stuff, and then you have that control of. It lends itself to mixed media, which is what I primarily do. Although the last 4 things I'm doing are pen and ink. But
that's the way to do is mix media. Just throw it all on a painting. You just follow basic rules, and then it's like
you figure out the strengths of each medium.
Yeah. Like, I use everything. Like, I'm lessening the oil more, just because I'm, like I said, trying to simplify. But I would do that. I'd paint in gesso, then I would airbrush, in acrylic, and then I'd do oil over that, and then sometimes acrylic gouache. And I used to use collage too. I would glue stuff on weird ways, but this was before like cell phones, so I don't have any pictures of anything, like only recently taking pictures. And I had in Finland one of those old Nokia phones.
Yeah.
And it came to a point where my wife said, "You need to get like an iPhone or something. You're out of control, like just primitive, And that's how I am. Just really. Like, I paint a lot with my fingers, and just really into it, like hands-on. I have to be hands-on, no digital. I just can't figure out computers. I try Photoshop, and I'm just like, forget it, like.
I'm with you, man. It's like I'm the same way currently. I have nothing against digital artists, because it's another way that if you're a good artist just by trade, like you're good at drawing, right? And you happen to use digital. We're talking about speed earlier. If it helps you be faster, it helps you actually make a livelihood off it. So no harm, no foul there. But for me, I do, romanticize the traditional mediums.
Yeah. That's how I am. Like, I like oil paints. I love. It's just too time consuming. It's like I said, it's a painting could be like a month, or just too much, and I can't do it. I have so much going on. I have to just crank stuff out, and maybe I'll get into oil another time more, and then I want to get more into gouache, like like that horror Mexican arts. That's the type of stuff I want to do, just like really down to basics. You know what I mean? Like,
well, gouache is so much it has a lot of the advantages of oil without the disadvantages, and then a lot of the disadvantages of acrylic, because gouache, it's reworkable. Pretty much endlessly. So it's a good medium.
That's the beautiful thing about oil, is like, you can't mess up in it. You can always wipe it off and start over, and there's so much you can do. It's just the drying time. That's the downfall of oil. It takes forever. Especially like, I live in a place where there's snow and stuff, and it just doesn't dry. I got to put it right next to the fireplace, and that's kind of sketchy. So. That's the problem I have with oil. And I use like the drying agents, and still like stuff like white or whatever and yellow. It just, it takes like days. It's like, I don't know. They need to come up with something to speed it up without using too much medium, because medium's no good. You should try to use the least amount of medium you possibly can, but
I've never even tried oil, man, just because I've heard exactly what you're saying. It takes forever to dry, and then I don't know enough about the fumes and everything to not make a stupid mistake.
Yeah, I was really stupid. Like when I started, I put paintbrushes in my mouth and stuff. So who knows what's going to happen to me later on.
Yeah,
I'd have it all over my hands and eat, and just stupid.
Yeah.
And then when I was airbrushing first, I didn't wear a mask or anything. Just like
airbrush with oil or acrylic?
No, never with oil. Just the acrylic. Like I got layers of just overspray everywhere. But now I'm wearing a mask. I put a fan on. And it took me a few years to figure that one out.
So, beginner airbrush here. So why do you need to wear a mask if it's water-based acrylic? What are some of the things I should look out for?
Just because it could build up. I don't think that's anything too dangerous, like lung cancer or anything. But so, like I said, my dad was a painter, and so was I. So my dad would spray, and he's acrylic or latex, and he spits up stuff till this day, just big globs of whatever, I used to do the oil, the woodwork in San Francisco, everything was wood, like doors, and I'd be in the bathrooms just with that oil paint, and who knows what the fumes, I fried my brain, I don't know. But back then it wasn't a thing. It's now there's all these concerns, which is a good thing. So I would say put a mask on just in case, I know H.R. Giger, he would paint without a mask, so he lasts a while.
He was doing acrylic too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to make a stupid mistake. And then the cleaner, I mean, I think it says non-toxic, but I know it gives me a little bit of a headache.
Yeah, I would just spray it onto the ground here. You know what I mean? I would sit here and grab some cleaner, just spray it all in the ground. No mask, nothing. I'm like, And yesterday I was spraying varnish everywhere. My wife said, "Oh, it stinks so bad," and I'm like, that's got to be horrible, But hey, you learn. When I start growing a second head, then I'll try to change my ways. We'll see.
Oh, man. Learning something already. So you were into hardcore and metal in the 80s and stuff.
Yeah.
When you were in Finland and stuff, did that persist, or have you ever kind of left metal for a little bit and come back? Or?
Yeah, I think it was more just all my friends were into that. So I was by default really into it. I liked it, but I'm more into soundtracks, the Italian stuff or kind of moody music. That's what I'll listen to. But have you heard that band Deteriorate? It's a 90s death metal band.
I think I've heard a couple tracks, but I don't know a lot.
I have the cassette. I have an older car that I drive. My wife drives a newer car. So I have a cassette player, and that's all that's in there, Deteriorate. That's all I listen to. So
nice.
It just goes back and forth, and
it's not stuck in there.
The kids.
The tape isn't stuck in there. So it's by choice that you're playing it. Yeah.
And then I have in the CD player, I have that movie The Beyond, the soundtrack.
Yeah.
So my kids love that. They're like, "Oh, it's pirate music," and yeah, it's pirate music. So those are my two things I just listen to. Oops.
Nice. When you're working, are you listening to anything?
I listen to podcasts, audiobooks, stuff I don't have to look up. So it's hard, with your stuff, you got to look up, oh wait, what's this? So I do sometimes listen to that stuff, but mostly movie stuff.
Yeah.
And then I'm really into history, so I'll listen to history audiobooks and a lot of that. And then sometimes I'll listen to old Howard Stern or something because I've heard it, so it's just something in the background. That's kind of what I like, is just stuff I don't have to put too much attention to, it's just every once in a while catch something and that's it.
Yeah.
I don't want to think about it. Sometimes music, but it's just the same the Italian stuff where it's mellow and just, it's just background, background stuff. I try not to think about it too much.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Especially when you're a flow state, an hour can just pass by. like
yeah, I don't want to miss things. It's when I'm not paying, like if I'm preparing stuff, then I'll listen to, you know what I mean, like more stuff. But yeah, I try not to. Just like I listen to random audiobooks a lot too. Like I just finished Tommy Davidson, the comedian. He was in Living Color, like his biography. Like, I'll just get whatever, you know, just stuff where, like I said, I don't have to think about it. I've just finished Ron Perlman's biography. I don't care, you know. What do I care what he's done? But I just put that stuff on, you know, just to have something in the background, you know.
Nice. So you said again about 20 years of like taking painting pretty seriously.
Yeah, that's when I tried to get into art school in Finland. I kept getting rejected, you know. So that was they were doing all that abstract expressionist garbage, you know, like
that was of the times, huh?
Yeah, because it was all gallery stuff, and that's all they were all doing the same goddamn thing. So I took some like life drawing classes, and the teachers all liked me. Like we would go to the museums, and the guys there, the artists, you know, with the circles, and like sometimes it takes them years to put the circles in certain places. And I just said, that's bullshit. This guy's nuts. You know, he's right behind me. And it's just like, forget it, man. You're a hack. What are you doing? You know, like,
yeah,
that's all bullshit that some critics came up with in the 50s, you know, like, I liked it. Like, I liked that movie, like Pollock, when I saw it, or, you know, but I ain't buying into that shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's nonsense. No skill needed. You just got to have a personality like, ooh, I'm crazy, and forget it, you know?
I'm with you, man.
Yeah.
I mean, my primary loves are definitely more illustration focused.
Yeah.
And I'm like you. I'm self-taught, you know, like I didn't go to art school. So I always find that people who didn't go to art school, they just, a lot of times you just see art a little bit differently than people who did. And it's not a better or worse. It's just like, I've done these interviews that I kind of see some commonalities. But like, I learned so much from people who did go to art school because I'm ignorant so much. So it's like, you got to be around those people because they fill in so much of your knowledge gaps. So
yeah, I had a roommate who went to art school, and she was like, you know, she paints like animals and stuff like people, but yeah, like she knew her shit and she knew how to do a lot of stuff. But just like I said, when I was in Finland, like someone made like something out of bottle caps, and I was about to take it and break it over his head. You know, it's like, what are you doing, man? Come on, bottle caps. I did that shit when I was a kid. You know, and I don't know. It was weird. Like when I took those life drawing classes, it was to get into the art school.
Yeah.
So everyone's like, you're in, and then all the teachers like the life drawing and all that stuff. They all loved me. The landscape. And then there was the modern art teacher, and he's like, well, I don't think he's like does into the interpretive movement, whatever, the dancing and all. I was like, well, I ain't gonna do that. Like, I want to learn how to paint, you know. So what am I gonna do with interpretive dancing? You know what I mean? Like, forget. And I just gave up on art school, and I was like, I'm just gonna teach myself. And then stuff like Instagram came along, where it's like you could do this trashy, like the stuff I love. You know, trashy stuff. Like, I grew up, that's when VHS came out, and I was just like obsessed with VHS and comic books and all that stuff. And I loved it. And it's like I could go back to my roots and trash it up. So that's
awesome, man.
Yeah, I'm so glad.
What were some of the comic books when you were growing up like that have kind of stuck with you, or like characters or series?
I was really into Marvel when I was young. Mm-hmm. But then I discovered something like Akira, and I was just blown away. I was obsessed with Akira, and I think I got a bootleg copy of the movie, you know, and I would just watch it all the time, and I would draw Akira and all that Japanese Robotech, you know, like
yeah.
And then I got into like, you know, martial law.
No,
I can't think of the. He did. I can't think of the name. League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. He did those comic books.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So I was obsessed with martial law, and I was like, this needs to be a cartoon. And I'm young. I'm like, whatever, 12 or. I was like, I need to make this into a cartoon. So I bought all the animation stuff, and I think I made one cell, you know. And I was like, this is not going to be a cartoon, you know. Like, I would get in over my head, like I wanted to be a comic book artist, but you got to be amazing. Like, the dynamics of drawing people, and that's really
You
hard
gotta be real
stuff.
fast too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'll get into animation. And it's like, no, that's the same thing. And I was like, well, I'll get into special effects. And that kind of went out the window. So I was like, at the time, digital was coming in. So I was like, yeah, well, I'm not going to do anything for art. I'm going to go work construction or something. And like I said, I got hurt and it became an obsession again. I was like, wow, people are painting this stuff? Like, this is awesome. Like all that lowbrow stuff,
Yeah. Well,
cool.
juxtapose, man. Robert Williams, dude, is one of my heroes. So, I'm with you.
Yeah,
like that shit opened my eyes too.
Yeah, I was obsessed with all of it. I subscribed. I left them all in Finland though, because you can only take a suitcase. So I always lived by a suitcase. And before I left the Finland, I used to go to video stores, and I'd buy garbage bags full of VHS and posters and all that. And when I went to Finland, I just gave it all away. All my comic books. I'm like, this shit ain't worth nothing. Laser discs, No one collects this stupid shit. And then all of a sudden, I was like, wait, what? People collect this stuff? It was awesome. Weird.
You found your people.
Yeah. Me and my roommates, we used to get into the gray area, gray market VHS. So I got to see all these weirdo movies. Like, we would be like on the hunt for like Cannibal Holocaust, and because it wasn't around that day, there was no internet, there was no nothing. So you had to be like an adventurer. Like you had to go to different cities and really get into like scenes and stuff like that. Same with music. Like you couldn't listen to anything. Like you had to go to shows and stuff like that. That's what I miss the most, is the adventure of it all. Like I got a membership at a Chinese video store because I was so obsessed with John Woo, and I only I read an article I think in Gore Zone, but it became an obsession. It's like, I gotta see John Woo. And the Chinese video store, nothing's written in English on the videos, so I had to just rent stuff until I finally got to it's subtitle, burnt in English subtitles, and I would say better tomorrow. And they just like, what the fuck are you even doing here? Like, we don't have that. What are you, nuts? But, they didn't know the English name for it. So, but
it's just an obsession. Really,
yeah. And same with music. You just buy shit. Like, remember I was young and I was like, oh, what's this cassette? There was like a guy with shit all over his mouth, like vomit it looked like. And it was Fugazi. And, just like, wow, this is the greatest band ever. And it was just, you just had to blind buy everything and see what was good, those things I miss, is like that adventure of just figuring things out, like going to a lot of shows and just be like, oh, this band sucks, this band's good, and that stuff. I don't know.
It's too easy. A lot of crap over time, but it's all worth it. And it was the visual images that, with music, that really get you in the door, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah. And that's what it was. Yeah, like you would get a glimpse of something, and it'd become an obsession. It's like, what is this? And 20 years later, you find out what it was, or like I used to get all the Richard Corbin comic books, Dan and Mutant World, and
I just got the reissue Dark Horse did for Den just the other day.
I ordered that shit, pre-ordered it like almost a year ago, and they're like,
Amazon. I went to Amazon. Yeah, they got it through was it Diamond Distribution, and they've messed up. Yeah. I got mine through Barnes and Noble. They have some in stock.
Oh, I was so pissed, and I was just like, I love Richard Corbin. Like, I'm obsessed with Richard Corbin. I went and got all his photos from what do you call it? Heritage auctions. You could blow them up and stare at them, and I got a lot of Richard Corbin stuff. Like, I would just buy everything, like an Airbrush magazine. But he didn't write much. He didn't talk about his, it's hard to find. He's a pretty secretive guy. Yeah. So I was like, God damn it. So that's what I got into Airbrush. Like, I got to figure out, I don't want to copy him, but I want to, like try different things like he did. And
totally.
Mix it all together. And too bad. It's too hard to find and too expensive. It's like, and all my money goes into like tools and stuff like that. Like, I'm doing remodeling, and I got a cut trees and split firewood. That's all I do. It's like a second time job, my second job and
I'm a
remodeling.
recent homeowner, so I'm starting to get a little bit of that. But I'm more in like the Atlanta suburbs. You know what I mean?
Oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like you like really out in like the country.
Oh, it's every day. Like I made like a sawhorse out of pallets just the other day, and I'm just sitting there splitting branches with a chainsaw. This is all I do. Like I wake up early, I walk the dog, take the kids to school, and then I cut wood for a couple hours, and that's it. That's my day, and then paint.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
With like Richard Corbin, man, like, so I know he's like a master and he's legendary, but there's sometimes I look at like his paintings and pieces, and I don't really like some of the decisions he's made. Like, it's really weird with him because like sometimes he draws people really weird to me, and like not in a way I like. So
like super broad shouldered.
Yeah, or like these narrow little legs, but it's like all intentional. So it's like the guy's like a master, but like sometimes just the decision he makes, I don't like. So I'm kind of like torn on him because I look at all his work, I'm always blown away. But like, sometimes it's just odd. I don't know.
People look really weird because he uses those little minarets and stuff like these big nose, not even human looking. It's just more like what he did. That's what I love. Like at this time, because I used to be able to get like Creepy and Eerie and all that for like 50 cents a magazine, and I had a ton of them. And I saw his stuff, and I'm just like, what is this? It's not computer animation, like what is this? Like, so strange. And
his rendering techniques are so mysterious too, because like some of his stuff almost looked digital 20 years before digital. So it's like, how did you do this, man?
I look at his newer kind of den stuff he did, and I know he did digital later on, but I was like, is it digital? Like, what is this? Like, what? He didn't leave anything behind. It's really hard. Like, I downloaded every kind of article I could find, and still he doesn't talk much about it, just kind of that he hates people and knows karate and stuff like that. So that's all kind of I got out of it, and it's like, and like I said, this Airbrush magazine, I was like, it's just, he uses acrylic and oil, and that's like all it says.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
There's a lot left to be desired there.
I couldn't believe he died. That was like the one person I wanted to meet, more than anything. Like, I met like a Jeff Darrow at a convention, and I talked to him for a while because I was obsessed with hard boiled and all that. Like,
he seems like a really nice guy.
He is so nice. Like, he did a little drawing for me while I was talking to him and stuff, and I was like, what a nice guy. I was like starstruck.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God.
Yeah, he goes on Cartoonist Kayfabe quite a bit, which is like a really cool channel. Yeah. So if you want to hear Jeff talk, I mean, he has like, at least on that channel, at least like 6 hours worth of conversation.
Really? Yeah.
So he's seems like a really cool guy.
Because it was cool. Like, I lived in Oakland for a while, so there was a lot of conventions, and this was before conventions like kind of were a thing. So no one was at them. So you can just bullshit, like you can get autographs for free, and it was an awesome time. Everything was free, or a couple bucks, and there's no one there. It was really cool, and all of a sudden it became like this huge thing, So
well, a lot more than just comics too, Comics is just one small portion of it nowadays.
Yeah, like I went to, when I was a kid, me and my friend, we went to one of those Fangoria Weekends of Horror, and we were like 13, 14, and I was just like, whoa, I got to meet a Pinhead, and I met Bruce Campbell and Linnea Quigley, and I'm just a kid, and I was so obsessed with that shit. Like, they call me Monster Man, like at school, because I was just obsessed with my parents. I had really young parents, so they like didn't give a shit. Like, here's a subscription to Fangoria, Gorezone, Toxic Horror. They didn't care. Deep Red, like we could do whatever we want. Me and my brother throwing ninja stars into the walls and just out of control, like sword fighting on the roof. They didn't give a shit. It was awesome growing up like that, where there was no censorship or anything. So.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah, I grew up in the 90s and the 2000s, so it's a bit different. But like for my generation, anybody right around my age that got into monsters and stuff, it all started with Goosebumps, man.
Oh, yeah.
and like Tim Jacobus's artwork, like that shit is super nostalgic for me.
Yeah,
and
it's
a lot
cool.
of airbrush as well, man. So like I have like a whole book of like Jacobus's stuff. He's a guest I want to try to get on sometime. But like it's big.
I've just recently been taking the dive into his stuff. Like, wow, this is really cool stuff. Like, so I have like tons of folders, like different artists that I put on my computer. I always look for a eureka moment, when I'm painting. I just go through them.
Oh yeah.
Like and then it's like, yes, this is it. Like just something snaps in your head and you're like, this is it, man. I would say the best ideas come in the shower or in the bathroom because it's like this peaceful place. I always tell my wife, don't disturb me. I'm thinking. It's like the office.
Nice. So then when let's go to the first couple years of this 20-year more deliberate journey for you then. How is your stuff different than how it is now?
Well, when I first started, I just would paint with Prussian blue and white.
Interesting.
Because you can make so many different shades from like light, white to light blue. So I would do all these weird. I was really obsessed with like the Soviet Union at the time too.
Okay.
It was Russia then, but I like the Soviet era stuff. So I would do all these weird Soviet paintings of like astronauts that were genetically modified or whatever. And that's what I had these books of like Russian photography, so I would cut them up and I would put Russian writing and then make the writing was all these weird pictures. And I was so obsessed. Like I wanted to go to St. Peter's. I would read all those, Tolstoy, and just obsessed with Russia. And then it's like when I moved to Finland, it's like, Russia, no way, man, I ain't going there. Like the Finnish people hate the Russians, so it's like, forget it. And it's a pain in the ass to go there too. Like you got to get all these visas, and I just wanted to go to St. Petersburg. Like I read
there's some beautiful stuff there.
Yeah, it's cool. And then I met a lot of Russian people, and they're so nice. And because Finland's really stuck on the because they fought the war in World War II and the Winter War. So the Finnish people are it's like their big thing. They're always talking about. And then you talk to Russian people, they're like, oh yeah, that was just some little thing in World War II, like big deal. No, that wasn't nothing. But yeah, and then I would paint like there was a bar, like a Northern Irish bar in San Francisco. So I did a bunch of their paintings and stuff of like, what do you call it? I don't know the name of it, but it's like field hockey.
Okay.
So I would do all that, or like paintings of IRA, like. Copy them, and Shane McGowan portraits. So they had them all hanging in a bar, and there was an article I just found. I was looking at the bar to see if it was still open. It's called The Dog Bullocks. And then the writer just talked about the paintings, like, who is this? And like, what's going on these paintings? And so that was pretty cool. That was like kind of my first thing to get noticed.
It's a long way from where you're at now, man.
Yeah.
There's
it took a long time. Like in Finland, it was nothing. And then, let's see, I brought everything kind of close. So I did this album cover. And because my friends always knew I painted. So they asked me, hey, you want to do an album cover? And I was like, yeah. So I did this. And it was nominated for like a Grammy. Not a Grammy, but their version. It's called an Emma. And they had like pictures of it in the Modern Art Museum. And that like just blew me up, where it was just like, yes, everyone's like, can I get an album cover? And eventually Foreseen. What's that?
Can I see that again? I haven't seen that before.
This was like a big oil painting.
Actually, that didn't make you any bigger. Let me, there we go. Is that on canvas or board or wood?
Yeah, this is just the album, but it was on canvas.
Oh, okay, got it.
And it was, it was like a poster size. So they just cut off, you know what I mean?
Right, to make the square.
The top and the bottom. And it was, kill the curse of conformity and death. So it was like, that was me at the time, like a portrait. And then my cursed family,
So you use yourself as reference for that?
I still do. So you see all the Grim Reapers and shit? That's me. And I just enlarged the head to make the skull more prominent. It's all me. And I did like this. This is me too. Like everything is me. This was the second Finnish album. So I pose for everything, women, men. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, oh yeah. I just, unless I can't do the actual pose, like
yeah,
I'm gonna probably post on it tomorrow. But I finished like this contortionist type of piece, and there's no way in hell I'm doing that. In terms of bending my back and everything.
yeah, right.
Yeah,
I would use my wife sometimes, but she just laughs. She does like maybe nervous laughter, and I was like, you know what, fuck it, I'm just using myself. So of course I change everything, but I just like because it's hard getting the hands certain ways, and
oh yeah.
then I got this guy. Let me see what his name. Paracinemascopic. So this guy, he lets me use. He does models. He photographs models, and he lets. And like I did a vampire painting, and the girl's already wearing the cape and everything. So he does like horror stuff. So sometimes I'll use reference from him. Like. And I did the. I can't think. It's an Italian name. It's the painting with the cobra and the two girls. Like he did those. The girls I use as the models. So.
Oh, nice.
It really helps me out because when I draw figures, because this was like this is how I learned how to draw. So I draw like comic book women that are like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
they're kind of funky always looking,
but
I could do it.
Drawing in that style's equally difficult for me, man. Like trying to actually draw like the stylized woman, that's harder in some ways than a realistic woman.
It's really hard to get, like, I feel like when I draw people just from my head, it's really cartoony,
Yeah.
And it's hard. I like to use reference if I can. If not, I draw it. Like you saw I don't have the painting. It was a recent one where the girl's holding, or the skull's holding the eyeball, and he has a knife, and there's a girl.
Oh yeah.
It was a version of this. It was a new version of this. And the girl looks real cartoony because I just drew it, and I'm like, fuck, it's so hard without reference, for me, like proportions and stuff like that, it's because
I definitely like to have them whenever possible.
What's that?
I like to have them as well whenever possible.
Yeah, it's so easier. Like when I just like draw a car out of my head, it's like, what kind of car is this? You know what I mean? It's like some Homer Simpson car, so it's really easy. I change everything around, I don't try to copy things exact, but still it's a lifesaver reference, but like I said, mostly it's me. So almost every painting, it's me, no matter what it is. Said all the Grim Reaper, it's all me. And then I'll take like the proportions of my, where the eyes and nose, and just expand everything. Because I think the heads look better if they're bigger.
Okay.
And it's like, who cares? What's a doctor going to come look at it and say, oh, this isn't right? You know what I mean? Like, so I don't care about proportions or anything like that.
Yeah. Let's see. So that album cover you just showed, was that probably one of your first big like breakthroughs then?
It was, because it was the nominated one. So they told me, I don't know if it's true, but they brought back that award because of this. Like at the time in Finland, people weren't doing painted covers. So it was like a big, oh my God, there's this guy who does painted covers. So all the bands would want to come to me, but a lot didn't, because they didn't want to all have painted covers by me. Right. And that's when I hooked up with like I knew the Foreseen guys because we were all at the shows, and they asked, and I was like, hell yeah, I'll paint a cover for you guys. They were just like kids, you know what I mean? Like, so I was like, I would have done anything at that time. I didn't care. I was just doing it on the side. And
but those are like roughly 10 years ago.
Yeah,
those come out like 2010s.
It's more, my stuff now is more just recently. It's all really. I worked like I said, a job, and it just became where I was losing money. And this is all recent. Now I do art full time, but this is very recent, where it's just like, it took a long, long time, over 20 years. September 11th, that's around that time's when I started painting. So that's how long it took me to really say, well, I might be able to do this, at least for now, like. Always worked a day job. And that's like the biggest thing. Work a goddamn day job. and have patience. No one's gonna do it unless you just have these magical skills, or it ain't gonna happen. You really got to struggle.
Yeah.
Like that's what I tell people all the time when they ask. It's like, it's just patience. That's all it is. If you got the patience, you'll do it. If you don't, do something else.
Yeah.
Learn how to juggle or something. I don't know.
Well, and do it because you love it, not because you're trying to make money off it.
Yeah, because that's what it was an obsession for me. And all of a sudden, more and more people were paying me. And it's like, now I'm getting more into the business aspect. Like, okay, I got to start. For the little stuff I do so quick, I charge almost nothing. You know what I mean? Like, it's just so quick. So it's nothing.
You have some like your originals and like your big cartel store and stuff,
Yeah. And those are all fast ones, like, that I don't worry about. But like the bigger stuff, I'm really holding on to a lot of stuff now. So, and I'm starting to make merch because I want to hit up like events. Like I'm only 2 hours away from San Francisco. So, what's that?
Like markets and stuff.
Markets and I get sometimes invited to conventions, but it's like I don't have nothing to sell. So what am I going to do there? Just sit with a blank wall and stare at people, or stare at the wall? It's like I don't have anything to sell.
You got to get the displays and you got to get the prints already. It's quite a production, man.
Dude, I just dropped thousands on prints, or actually it's posters and shirts, and I got a credit card just for that, and so hopefully it pay. I'm not trying to get everything sold at once, but I want to go and start hitting the road, So I'm starting to stockpile stuff,
Nice.
So we'll see. Where I just have a bunch of tchotchkes and knickknacks, so to sell, and sell originals too. I'll do like a bunch of little originals because I could just do them quick. So that's my plan for this year. Selling out.
Well, if you ever come to Atlanta for any convention or something, hit me up.
Yeah, I know a bunch of people there, so I probably will at some point. Once I have like such the bad anxieties, but I got to get over that and just go do things. It's like I don't know where I got it. Like I used to travel the world and I used to do crazy stuff, and just it hit me. I think just being in this studio too long, it got to me. So I'm really that's what I want to do. Get everything built up, and then like start going out at the end of the year next year, 2024. That's my goal. This goal, like my next goal.
Yeah. I'm definitely behind on the professionalism department because all that stuff. You recently worked full-time, part-time job. When you actually do have that time that's not dedicated to that job, for me, I just want to spend time on the craft. Yeah. But all that other stuff you got to do if you want to get to the next level too. So I need to do that as well eventually.
Yeah, because it's not fast either. Like, so the other day I'm doing all the math, like how much is it going to cost me for shipping, and that you got to, and what's my profit going to be? Am I making any money or am I losing money? It's all a lot of stuff. And will I be okay if I don't sell that much? And you got to figure it all out. You don't want to kill yourself and do something stupid. You know what I mean? Like, and the stuff ain't cheap. You know what I mean? Like, that's why the first one I'm going with posters. So they're cheap, and I kind of like it. It's more trashy than prints. Like,
it fits the aesthetic.
Fine art print is some stupid skull. You know what I mean? Like, I want it to be as trashy as possible because that's what I like. Like, I like that trash aesthetic. Like my room when I was a kid was painted black, and I had black light posters and black. Like I said, our parents let us do anything. So it was like people would come over like, "Oh, he's got mental problems." Like friends, like, no, I just in the stupid shit. Like this is what I like. I'd say I'm pretty boring now. Once I had kids, like I just turned into an old man real quick. Just my hair went gray, and next thing I'll just be in a wheelchair. I don't even need it, but I'll just be in one just to hang out. Everything is slowed down. And like even when I moved to Finland, I was still like a maniac. Like a car would walk by me, and I kick the car in the side. Like you're too close to me. Like I was out of control for a long time, and I don't know what happened. Kids, I guess.
What are some like visual artists that are inspiring you a lot, like nowadays? It could be old mainstays like we've talked about, like Corbin and stuff like that.
Yeah, but, Corbin definitely, and Enzio Schiotti, and then like this, like all the Spanish guys. I'm obsessed with the Spanish artists. San Julian, Enrique.
That's awesome.
You know, just I love that stuff. And then I always have tons of books next to me. You know, like all this old Italian posters.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, these guys. Like, I used to talk to him on the internet. He's so cool. You know what I mean? Like, you wouldn't think he made this stuff. He's like an old man, and he's just really, like, nice and just so nice, you know?
Yeah.
And then, of course, the main ones, you know, like Basil Gogos. Like, I look at this stuff every day, you know, just all that stuff. Noriyoshi Ohara, you know, that Japanese dude. Just
a little bit, yeah. A lot of the stuff that you're influenced by, I'm not as in tune with, man. I came from just different inspirations.
Yeah. Just, you know, you just start looking on Pinterest and find artists. Like, I love all the pulp stuff. You know, I just love it. And I have tons of pulp books. And that was where I wanted to go for a while, was just do pulp art. Like how it is, you know, like that old oil painted pulp art. But it's like, now I want to try more like acrylics and gouache, that kind. It's pulp art too, but maybe a little easier, you know, like to wrap your head around. But I just don't have time right now to do it. I'm just got lines, like just lines of people. I'm just next.
How do you organize it all? Do you have like a whiteboard or like an Excel sheet? Like,
yeah, I have just like a piece of paper and I cross it off.
You know, I do the same thing. I got a little whiteboard right over here.
Yeah. I used to not write stuff, and I missed people, and I felt so bad, you know.
Yeah.
Like oops. They didn't pay deposit. At that time, I wasn't taking deposits or anything. Just, I felt bad, you know, like, oh, I'll get back to you. And it's just recently I started writing stuff down. Like, okay, I'm getting older. The brain's a little fried, so I need notes everywhere. So.
Yeah.
And I just like to keep a lot of paperwork for taxes and all that stuff. Just a lot of everything. I have drawers full of receipts, and they're not organized. I just stuff them out, and the house is blowing up. I don't know what that was.
Oh.
A dinosaur attack.
I wrote down a couple other questions. Let me see here. So I asked this question to Matt Sticker as well, and I thought he had a really interesting answer. Do you think it's more important in this day and age for an artist to have a very defined style or a flexible and like versatile style?
I think flexible, and like I said, what I'm doing now is kind of the same stuff, but that's now. So then what comes after that, you know? And I learn like every medium I can, you know, watercolor, gouache, oil paint, acrylic, airbrush. I used to do sculpture, like, so what's next? You just got to see what sells and what people like, but you can't do it forever, you know, like you don't want to get too repetitive. And I used to be mostly pencil and ink. I do a lot of that. It's just, for me, it's too slow. You know what I mean? It's too, I like the process. I just like to do stuff, like, be sloppy and fast, kind of, you know, and just like to paint. And that's it. Like that pen and ink stuff is like, woo. And then you mess up, and it's just like, you mess up. It's big time, you know, like, well, what I'm doing, you can mess up, big deal, and just fix it real quick.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I think you should be very versatile. I think you don't have to like change every single painting. Just go one way for a while and see what catches, you know, like, okay, this is what I'm doing. Like, I used to just do oil painting. And at first I started as portrait, you know, just doing portraits and normal stuff like that, and changing a little bit, making it a little weirder and weirder and weirder. And then, like I said, I was like, I can't keep doing this. It's just, I spent too much time and didn't ask for enough money, you know, like, wasn't worth it. It's like I'm spending hundreds of hours and not making any money. So can't do that anymore. Like, if someone wants to buy an oil painting, you pay up. You know? Yeah. Like, I'm doing one now, but it's really cool. So I really want to do it. So this band, Dr. Smoke, they're like, they came up with a great concept. So it's going to be like all their portraits, but weird, and and I'm really stoked to do it because I love doing portraits and stuff like that. That's.
Have you started that one yet?
No, I'm doing some other one right now.
Yeah.
Because I'm lagging. Whenever there's nice weather, I try to get wood, because we have like a wood burner.
Yeah.
So in the winters are pretty harsh. So it's like I need wood. Otherwise, this last winter we had tornadoes and stuff up here in Northern California. It's like, how the hell do we got tornadoes? Like it was my house almost flooded. So I've been building French drains and making rock creeks. So it's just a lot of work, like house.
And you're doing that yourself primarily?
Yeah.
Wow. Nice.
That's like I said, me and my dad and brother, we were like ghetto engineers. Like none of us went to school, but we just figure it out. Like I work on cars and stuff, whatever it is, and just figure it out, take things apart. And, and I used to work at Tractor Supply. So it's like, you just got to figure it out. Like, okay, what kind of pump should I get for my well? And it's like, you got to read stuff and you just figure stuff out, like. Got to when you live in a rural area and stuff, like shit falls apart, and we bought our house is kind of like a mix of a house and a cabin, so it's a lot of, we're redoing everything. So my kids were staying in the same room, but now they're getting older, so we got lofts and stuff, so we got to build that in the rooms. And I went to school in Finland for like construction. I didn't make it into art school, but I went to construction school, so I got my card to be a construction worker, and Chode Keith, they wrote on there. Like, you fuckers. They got that wrong.
Chode Keith.
Yeah.
That's great.
But then that's right when I moved. So when I was going to start the construction stuff, like, then I moved here. But I learned a lot, in centimeters and meters, and, like measuring all the metric system, which is way better than what we use, It's like...
Yeah.
10 by 10 by 10 by 100, it's just super simple. So whatever, like I learned all metric system.
So you talked a little bit about the process you're doing now with the oil and acrylic. Can you kind of break it down in terms of order from the beginning? So like, are you doing like a sketch on paper, then you're going to...
I don't even do sketches, really. Yeah. I get bored so fast, like... And plus, I think if I do sketches... did you look at we'll bring this up later if you happen to have this stuff. So I draw just a line drawing on the canvas. I paint the canvas black and just do a line drawing.
Yeah.
Then I have gesso, black, white, and gray. So I paint it all, make sure everything's even, and then I'll take
like a skull, just like as an example, right? Because I think I saw a reel of you do that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have like the T-squares and stuff. So I just go and make sure, the eyes, the nose, the mouth, everything's even. And then I do the paint gesso, and then I'll take an airbrush with white and kind of clean it up, try not to mess it up and clean it up. Then I'll put the colors on.
Yeah.
Just spray colors. I'll pull the needle out and just blast it with color. So it's just like a spray paint can. And then do
you mix those colors, or do you?
No, I just buy them. I just buy them straight, like they have this. This is great stuff.
Those. Okay, yeah.
So I just,
I have a few of those.
Straight out. I don't put any medium, nothing in. I just blast it out.
No reducer or anything.
No, nothing.
Oh.
So I just hope for the best, And then I'll take more either gouache, acrylic gouache, or just more gesso, and then like add white to make it really glow. You know what I mean? Like
so
and stuff. More. Yeah, and then sometimes once that's dry, I'll go with oil over it. So I don't know if I have anything.
And what's the perk of the final oil? Like, what effect does it provide you?
So, like, say if I want like the teeth whiter or something, I'll mix like turquoise and white and whatever it is, and it'll make like the top parts of the teeth whiter. Or say if it looks kind of clunky, I'll maybe like fix a little like the jaws or the cheeks or the head. I'm trying to think.
So it's mostly for like definition and stuff.
Yeah, it's not for anything big. I'm trying to think if I have anything here. Okay. So there's this spell book. So
That's
all
so
of it's
cool.
like the hand. I painted it in acrylic, and then I went over the whole entire thing with oil.
Okay.
So like the pink, and then I do like a yellow. I'm all backwards here, like a news weatherman.
Oh, you're
So
doing good.
yeah, so I'll just add a lot and see, like all the yellow and pink. That's all oil, and then
Oh,
the
it
blue
is?
on top. So to make it really like smooth and stuff like that, because oil blends so well, and then you
Yeah.
can kind of, even on the acrylic, you can blend it, where it kind of just seamlessly hooks to the acrylic, and you can't even see it seam.
Nice.
So I had pictures, but I can't show any of them. Like I did one with really cool hands, and I did it all in acrylic, and then I went over the whole entire thing in oil, and I think it looks really good. And I always look at it for reference, like, oh wow, that's the claws are they look great, and it's like the oil really helps.
Huh.
I do less for like a lot of the recent skull stuff. I just do it just acrylic, just because I got to be so quick. But every once in a while, if something doesn't look right, I'll add oil to it over. And that's the rule. You can do oil over acrylic, but never acrylic over oil.
Because it would just slop around, right? Is that kind
Yeah,
of what
the oil will crack, and then the acrylic will crack.
Oh, okay.
Because the oil takes, however, forever to dry. But I do it thin, and then kind of like spread it around so it dries faster. I don't never glob oil on because it's just a nightmare.
Right.
That's what they used to do, but no, I don't do that. I do it thin, very thin. So that's, like I said, long as you paint over acrylic, no problem. Easy peasy.
No, that's really cool. Let's see. Well, you want to pull up some of your art and kind of talk through it a little bit?
Sure, yeah. Oh,
there we go. Can you see it well enough?
Yeah.
Cool. So we got Creepshow on the left, and that's pretty recent as of today. And then Atomic Witch, that album came out last year. I was just listening to it at the gym earlier today. Really, really cool stuff. It's kind of like speed thrash, a little bit of black and death metal in there too. Really cool.
That's the Atomic Witch is one of the ones where I wish I had the painting.
Yeah.
I really like that one. It's like, did you see the pictures that I did, like the process pictures to that one?
I think so, yeah.
It was completely different. Like the sides of it were absolutely different. And that's why I hate doing sketches for people. Like I did it and I was like, this doesn't work. This looks like shit. So I redid the whole thing, that bottom part. And it's like, you just got to sometimes fill it out. Like it's not always great.
Yeah.
And then I got the Creepshow.
Here, I got to
I paint very large, as you can see.
Yeah, that's giant, man.
Where is it? This is poster size, 24 by 36. So that one, I had first done it as the old Creepshow. The like more skeletal.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, oh no, that's, there's certain things he has to have. So I did it again. It's like, oh, the gum has to be rod too. So, and I did the whole thing like twice, fixed it and photographed it in one day. It was like a 17-hour day. I had to repaint the whole thing basically. I was like, oh. And if I would have had more canvases, I would have made actual different paintings.
Right.
But at the time, I didn't. So I would have liked to have all three of them, but I had to just keep fixing that one.
Well, the end result's awesome. I mean, when they commissioned you for that, they must have known kind of what you've been doing recently with like the more neon colors, right?
Yeah, there's this guy. He does a podcast named Brian McClay.
Okay.
And I didn't know, but he was talking about my work on a couple of things, and I was like, he's so kind. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
and it's all comic book people. So that got the attention of, like Wanted Comics and like, do you want to work for Image? Do this for Image? And it's the same people. What is it? I think it's Skybound, the Walking Dead people. So it's their division.
Oh, it is? Okay. Of Image?
Yeah. So it's the Greg Nicotero. So it's like his thing. Creepshow. He does the new Creepshow and Walking Dead and all that. And he was in Day of the Dead and Special Effects guy.
Oh, cool. How big was the Atomic Witch painting? Sorry to cut you off there.
Maybe it was like 24 by 24.
Wow.
I try to paint as large as possible because I love painting large. Like painting small, it never really works. But so yeah, 24 by 24, I believe. And like the new one I'm doing is going to be 30 by 30 because I want the bigger it is, the easier it is for me. You know.
Well, totally. And then it looks tight when it's shrunk.
Yeah, all compressed and stuff.
Yeah.
And
it looks real tight.
yeah, I love that Atomic Witch one. I was like, I wish I kept it. Yeah, like on the other, I had that green guy, and before it was like, I had these guys with like weird helmets and like a specter kind of guy, and I was like, what the fuck am I thinking here? So I redid it. And then on the other side, it was some goofy looking zombie, and I was like, man, this sucks. So that's why I said I hate doing sketches because it's like, you kind of got to feel it like as you're going along, you know, like.
Yeah, but as long as you're working with a forgiving medium, you're good.
Yeah.
You know? But if you're not, you got to.
See, that one is a lot of acrylic, oil over acrylic. That one. It's a ton of oil over acrylic. So it's basically an acrylic painting and then oil over the whole thing. Nice. I think except for the witch on the top, that's all acrylic. But the rest of it's all mostly oil, you know. And I did another one for him. Like an EP. I think that's coming out soon. It was just a quick little one. They're cool. They're really cool to work with. You know, everyone's been really cool. So I haven't had any bad experiences with anybody. Plus, it's like, I don't care. I'll just throw the painting out and tell you to go, you know, forget it.
Just move on. This is what I was going to say. So who'd you sell it to? Just like a private collector or like?
To them.
Because
at the time, that's when I wasn't doing it like professionally. So I would just sell the paintings to whoever, you know, like all the Foreseen ones. I just, you know, give the paintings to because I don't know. I didn't think ahead, you know, like I should keep it and then charge more. But a lot of times I just don't care. I have so many paintings that it's hard to keep anyways. So, and if my house ever catches fire because there's a lot of forest fires or floods even. It's like, what am I going to do? It's building up so much. And then I do all my shipping stuff here too.
Yeah.
And I'm getting all my merch. So I just really have no room for anything. I have a closet just stacked with paintings, just waiting to get ruined, you know. And I have tons of paintings on easels, on the walls, and just I have nowhere to put any of this stuff.
Since you're out in the country, do you have like an art supply store relatively close, or you have to make like a big trip and buy a bunch of shit?
No, I order from Blick, you know, Dick Blick. Okay. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I do like now. I'd say like every month I'll drop like a couple $100 and get everything. Like I don't make canvases or anything. I know how, but it's just a pain in the ass, a waste of time. So
yeah,
I buy bulk canvases and just kind of check what I need, and I buy everything. They're pretty good. Like sometimes they'll give me because now I check the canvases all the time, like if they're warped or they have little pinholes, and they reimburse, no problem. They don't ask questions. So
yeah.
Great company, I think.
And then I had this one pulled. It's just kind of like a in progress, and this one to me has like obviously your own style, but like I see like a little bit of like Giger and that like top woman with like the tentacles.
Yeah. This was for Meat Canyon, and he said
sick.
he wanted, you know, that movie Dagon.
No, I don't.
Okay, it's like not Stuart Gordon, or maybe Stuart Gordon did direct it. So it's like it's a H.P. Lovecraft kind of story where like these sea people, you know, and they live in this town, but they're also like aquatic people.
Oh, that's cool.
So I had the top kind of figured out, and then the bottom I just said, okay, this is what I'm gonna put. Like I did one like the crab. I had the idea of a crab then. It's like, well, what am I going to do with the rest? So I kind of just, you know, figured out as I go. I do that a lot. Like I'll do a section at a time with no thought of any other thing. You know, and that's it usually works out, but it could not very much not work out too. But that's why, like a collage. You know,
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
come up with one idea, I'll do that and say, hope the rest works out. Like that symbol at the bottom in the pink, I think that is from Dagon, the movie. So I
What
threw that in there.
decade is that movie from?
The 90s.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to look it
It's
up.
a pretty popular movie now. Like now,
Yeah,
it's like shot in Spain. It's worth checking out. It's weird. It's like I said, H.P. Lovecraft kind of movie.
yeah, I'll have to check it
Fish
out.
Satanist. I don't know. Yeah,
um,
I love this painting. Like this one, I like too. Like,
was it pretty cool working with Meat Canyon as well? He seems like a
yeah,
really cool guy.
he was super cool. The problem was, like, I think he wanted it for a shirt, and of course, look at this thing. How are you going to put this on a shirt? Like, I kind
Yeah.
of fucked up on that end, you know. Like, but he was so cool. He didn't say anything, you know. Like, I just got so into it, you know. Like, I wasn't thinking, you know, design wise, like what to put on his shirt, but you know, he seemed happy with it, and I think I like it. Like, I think it's a great painting that I've done.
Yeah.
You know, like I love it, and hopefully he's happy with it. You know, he was so easy to work with, such a cool guy. Like
Nice.
no, he didn't even say anything. Just like whatever.
I love watching his videos. I'm kind of a recent fan. My friend, you probably know him, James Bousema, but he did like some like cabbage, no, the Garbage Pail Kids, like kind of like a parody on them for Meat
Yeah,
Canyon.
yeah,
They looked really cool.
yeah. His stuff looks crazy, like his animation and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
oh, it's crazy.
All right, and then Frogacudus. So this was like the what do you call those things? Those like labels at the top of like those toy bags. Whatever, but
Header.
like that's what it is. It's like that strip.
Yeah, header. Let's see if you can see.
Here, one sec. There you go.
Look how big this thing is.
That thing's massive. Does it have like a platform? What is that? Like that
It's,
he's
it's
staying on?
no, it's just a plastic guy in there and all his weapons.
Oh, it's weapons. Okay.
So it's from an old toy, and it's like one of my first memories. Like I think I was in kindergarten, and at my birthday at Chuck E. Cheese, I got all this. I think it might have been called Otherworld, this toy brand, and I got this guy. And they were like those bendy, you know, with the metal in them, and the rubber bendy. These guys, and I was so stoked. The guy is for Brian Falk. I hope I'm saying his name right. And he does all the chainsaws for the Evil Dead stuff, like the new movie. He makes the chainsaws.
Oh,
He's
sick.
like a prop guy. So I was like, oh, that's awesome. And he does toys on his, I don't know if he does them on their spare time or, you know, does them mostly. He does all kind of old toys and revamps them and makes them huge and super cool guy again, like super cool. And I was so stoked, like I was so excited, like, oh my God, you do the chainsaws. And I was asking him like, what are they? And he's like, it's like almost nothing. It's like just pieces of paper, whatever foil. You kind of like rig them together. It's like, you know, they're not like actual chainsaws. They gotta be light. And he does a lot of prop work. So
That's really neat.
and during COVID, he was making all the toys. So I was so stoked to do the Frogacudus. So that's why I left the space for the text. You know, like he's going to invade this, I don't know, Hacienda Castle or whatever it is. You know, I planned out the Frogacudus, but then the rest I just kind of did.
Like the background and stuff?
Yeah, I just rigged that up, you know, like he said he wanted like a deserty kind of plant. Because at first I was like, oh, like a jungle. He's like, no, make it more like, you know, the Mars or whatever, you know, some planet. I was like, oh, that's cool, man. So yeah, I like that one too. So this was all oil, this painting.
Oh, really? So it took some time, huh?
Yeah. So I did the black and the grisaille, whatever, you know, the black and gray. And then I did washes. So you could see on the spine of the Frogacudus, like how it kind of goes over. So it was like washes of green.
Right.
I thinned it out, and then I did it thick over the washes, and then I was like, well, shit, what am I going to do for the background? So I had to, you know, figure that out after I did Frogacudus. So yeah,
Have you done any more like toy packaging or anything like that?
I did some stuff for a Killer Bootleg, but I don't know if it was for packaging. I've done stuff for toy people, but I don't think any of it's for packaging or anything like that.
Yeah.
Just just portraits of their toys and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think.
I know like Ed Repka does a lot of stuff for like Super 7, like those
yeah.
back cards.
Oh, those are so cool. Yeah, I see those all the time. Yeah. I'm like, wow, man, that stuff's awesome.
Yeah. Those are some
love
really
his
cool
stuff.
projects.
I got a bunch of his shirts I buy because he does like the TeePublic, and when they're on sale, I buy a bunch of the shirts,
Yeah.
Because that's what people used to say, oh, like you're trying to be Ed Repka. I'm like, no, I'm not. Like I don't try to be like anybody, Like I take influences from everything and just kind of mash them up, like.
Well, it's like you can exist in the same scene and sphere, but like, yeah, your stuff looks completely different.
Yeah, that's what I was like. But I love his work. Like, man, when he like the Death album and all that, and he did Violence, and it's like, that's so cool because those are local guys, I was like, Violence and.
Well, I think what's so cool about him is like, he is not afraid to use like the bright colors, like you, like
yeah,
like. He likes pink, and there's something cool about using pink on like grotesque imagery. It just makes it even freakier.
Yeah. His stuff looks so cool, I had a bookmark, and it was his artwork, and I was looking at, because the power was out, so I was actually physically reading, and the bookmark, and I was just staring at the bookmark, and I was like, God damn, this guy is awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love his work.
So I picked this one on the left. I found it on your Instagram, and it's it's 2 paintings. But what I thought was cool is like there's more texture than I usually see with some of your stuff, where some of your stuff like emphasizes the more smoothness.
Crust. It was for the album. It's a story. Like it's not a music album. It's a story.
For you, that's a tinier piece.
Yeah, because I might have had to ship it to England, so I didn't want it too big.
Yeah.
But I still got it, and I had done it different, and it just like it wasn't working, so I kept adding texture to it. Making it thicker, and it's cool because there's music behind it. It's by Blood and Dust, but it's just a guy narrating a story. It's from Library of the Cult, and that's what he does. He just did Dracula, and he has like these cool musicians doing the background and someone reading, the stories, and it's a really cool concept he does. Library of the Cult, that's it. And then the other one, that there's a small one too.
You just got him right on standby, man.
Yeah, he showed me. I have everything lying around.
Nice.
So this is him in the spacesuit, the man from Planet X, and he does different stuff. Like this is kind of his electronic album, but he does a lot of Italian throwback albums. He's a German guy, so he does like the giallo music and stuff like that, and he does some cool space albums. And I was stoked to work. I like listening to his music. He has like a cannibal one, like a Cannibal Holocaust album, and they're all he changes all the time. A spaghetti western album. And
what's the name of the artist?
That was from, he came from Planet X, but then his main stuff is called Mondo Sangue. I'm not Italian, so but Mondo SAU, I think GE Sangu. I don't know what it is. But it's really cool stuff, like really throwback, like Italian stuff. Yeah. And I think he just does all the stuff himself, like every instrument. I got some more Italian stuff coming out soon.
Sick.
Then
this thing on the right, didn't you just finish it a couple days back? Like a week
back? Yeah. That's for a movie coming out called Spirit Board. Okay. I think it's going to be in Pennsylvania, maybe a Pennsylvania movie, like a low budget movie, and the guy was what is it? Heavy metal. There's so many names to remember all the time.
Yeah.
And he's getting it cast right now. So Spirit Board, be on the lookout.
Sick.
Like the rough. It was really rough doing the Ouija board.
That's why I was going to ask you. I was like, dude, that looks like a nightmare trying to
It
get
was
all
a
those
nightmare.
letters. Like, oh my god! I thought maybe you were using a stencil for it because I was
I have these rulers. You know, these bendable rulers, but they're never like that straight. So I have to like dick around with it for a long time to get it, and I'll do a line, 2 lines and then 2 lines. And then I got to figure out the right spacing, and then I have to space each letter, and it's like, oh my God, what a nightmare. And then my wife was like, yeah, the yes and the no are both at different levels. Like, I don't give a shit. They're staying at that level.
Yeah.
It's like, it's too hard to do all that. And once you do it, like once I color it, there's no going back, with stuff like that. But I'm getting better at the text. I'm doing more and more text, I used to be really against putting text in paintings. I used to really tell people, no, I won't do that because I think you should have the artwork separate from the text. But now it's like, I kind of like doing it. Like, I just did this one. You've seen it, I'm sure. Like,
yeah, I saw that the other day.
I love doing
that. That's more fun though. You can tell there's a little more wiggle room there.
Yeah. Like the text was not planned out at all. I just did it.
Yeah.
I was gonna do it all at the bottom, but I was like, nah, that'll look stupid. And so I like doing text now a lot more. Cool. I was doing it on bristle board at first, and that was really hard to do on bristle board because if you make a mistake, it's very non-forgiving to clean that mistake up. Like,
so you're saying Bristol with acrylic paint?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
and I would pick just thin Bristol, right?
What's that?
Just like the thin Bristol board, not like the thicker like illustration board?
Yeah, thicker, the illustration board.
Oh, okay.
So I would coat it with the black gesso, then the pain in the ass part, like drawing it on, making sure everything's even, and then spray paint or airbrushing it all in. I would only do with the airbrush. So it's like if there was a mistake to be made, a lot of cleanup. Like with that's why I paint on black a lot because then I could just clean it up.
Right.
So there's stuff. It's really, really forgiving painting on black. Super forgiving. For me.
That's a good point. Yeah, no, that's a really good point.
Because if you say you get a fingerprint or something on a white can, you know what I mean? It's all. Then what are you going to do with it if you want to keep it all white? You gotta. A lot of times the paint won't cover it, or you spill something. With black, you just paint it black again. It's really simple, and then you just spray it again or do whatever. Nice. Allows me to work really quick. That was my big eureka moment. Paint on black like a velvet painting or in reverse and just pull out the lights. And that's what I like to do. It makes it so much easier than building and building and building the dark and the lights. Now it's black and I just pull out the whites. Very simple.
That's very smart.
Yeah.
This one really caught my attention too. I love the color variation in the pentagram.
Yeah, this is for Hey Beautiful Jerk. They're the VFX company, and they do all. You seen like Mastodon with all the Skinner animation in the back when they play. They did they do all that stuff. And
oh, nice.
This is for their office, and yeah, that pentagram. Holy shit, that was such a pain in the ass. I had to learn how to geometrically draw a pentagram, so it's all these different steps because I want, it's hard to make everything even.
Yeah.
So that took me, that was the longest part of the painting was just drawing the pentagram, so it's all even in a perfect pentagram. Like I had to look up some videos on how to make perfect stars. Holy shit, that was a pain in the ass. But I like this one because
so cool, man.
They just wanted a Baphomet painting, so I had no plan at all. Just the pentagram above, the Baphomet, and then the rest I just freehanded. So a lot of just dripping paint, splattering paint, and I would take acrylic and just get wet down the whole canvas and let it kind of slide around and dry how it would dry. That's like the bubbles and all that stuff. It's just no planning of it, and I just made it. And all around the skull, that's the same. It's just splattering, letting paint kind of roll around with liquid and then dry however it dries. I really like doing this one. This is one of my favorite paintings to paint ever. No thought at all. You know? I had done it and then I was like, maybe I should put a skull in the middle there. And, you know, I like doing stuff like that. No thought behind it. Because that's what everyone always says. Like, well, people that I, you know, from my past or something, like, oh, you must be really disturbed painting all this stuff. I'm like, no, there's really no thought in any of it. Like, I don't put much thought in it. I just do it. It's like a process. I try to make it naturally. It's like, no, I was never, nothing bad ever happened. I was just, you know, reckless and living life on the edge, pushing the envelope. But it's like, no, like, you know, I didn't come from like a traumatic background or anything like that. It's just, I like, this is what I liked when I was a kid. Like, my mom would like put on a movie and I'm like, well, what is this? Oh, the gates of hell. And then all of a sudden some dude's getting drilled in the head and we're little kids, you know, so just exposed. Like, big deal.
Cool. Yeah, you popped out for a second. Probably.
Yeah, I saw the thing coming out.
But yeah, you're good. That only took a second. Yeah, man. This piece really stuck out to me as well, and I do love how organic, like, all the different lines and everything is, and then there's really good color harmony as well. So
yeah,
I think it is one of my favorites as well.
Yeah, it really is my favorite, and it's like, God, I wish I had this painting, you know, like, but it's like, they're a great company, you know, like, I love their work. So it's like, I'm stoked they have it, you know, like, it's so cool. And I'm glad I can come out with it. Like, I didn't even, to me, it's like kind of Lovecraftian, but that's not how I meant it, you know, or anything. It's just like, I bet it's just like a cosmic Baphomet, you know, like, like doing whatever, eating planets.
And it's the last slide. So one on the left I picked because that's actually a gouache painting, right?
Yeah, it's totally, that's my first gouache painting I ever did.
Yeah, I went pretty far back in your Instagram for that one.
Yeah, that was a very early one. I was trying to, because I wanted to do like the old gouache movie posters, kind of practice. So this was my first practice with gouache, and I want to come back to gouache and do this kind of stuff, you know, like, you see the girls really cartoony. That's what I said, like, when I just draw somebody, they're very cartoony, and maybe their eyes are at different levels. And
but it reminds me, you know, those like old horror books, you know.
Yeah.
Like that's why I like that one a lot. And I also just like Bigfoot kind of characters.
Yeah.
Like, those are just always really fun to draw and cool to look at.
Yeah, yeah. And I live in a Bigfoot area too, but it's not that big of a Bigfoot area, but there's like sightings, I guess. But we normal people just call them bears, you know. But,
yeah.
So that I was really inspired. There's a poster of a horror movie that was a 3D slasher, and it was called Silent Madness, and that's what inspired. You know, that it's kind of my take on Silent Madness, the first and only Friday the 13th 3, but 3D slasher. That's pretty much a very, you know, it's a bore of a movie, but it has cool poster art.
Yeah.
So that was my inspiration.
What about this center image?
Yeah, I really like this one too. This is for it's called Toinen. It's a Finnish short. It's by these guys I work with a lot. I do a lot of work with them, and it's a cool short. So I can't think of the name of the director, but it's kind of just people. It's like a depressing kind of short. No, I don't think there's any words to it or anything, like no spoken words. It's just really visual, lights, and they're like morphing into each other, but not like a special effects way, just totally visually, you know, and it looks really cool. There was a director who did that, a French director. I can't think of his name though. And all the different lighting, all the effects are just with lighting, and it kind of reminded me of that. And like I said, they would cross into each other, and it was really cool. And the soundtrack's coming out soon by Heinrich Dressel. He does really cool stuff, so I can't wait for that. Like, and I'm stoked he's using the art for the soundtrack. What's that?
So your painting's going to be the cover of the album?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's for the movie. He does, like, I've done a lot of the movies that never came out. Like, something happened here and there, And cool people are doing the soundtracks. Like I did one, and have you heard of Umberto? He does like that kind of synth
I have.
music. So he did the soundtrack, but the movie just, I can't remember what the director said. It was an interactive movie, so it was a play and a movie. So what was happening in the movie was coming out onto the audience and the stage, but I think she said all this stuff got ripped off during COVID. Like someone broke into her locker and just stole everything. So,
Oh man,
and that sucks. So
yeah,
I like that one a lot. It's because I like doing portraits but not straight portraits, weird portraits. Like I like to do them off.
Well, with cool lighting too. I think that's part of it as well. That's what to me makes like portraits like fun, is figuring out where the light and the darks are.
Yeah, that's what I love. That like that Basil Gogos, like that's the best thing about him. He had 20 different light sources. You know what I mean? Like, and they're all different colors. And it's like that's the genius thing, man. I love that. Like having weird light sources and weird lighting. That's what makes it.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the movie is awesome. I think it's like 15 minutes. I don't know if it's out yet because it always takes forever for the short films do all the circuits. You know what I mean?
Right.
For however many years, and then they come out like on YouTube or whatever it is. So Toinen. I can't remember what Toinen means. I forgot most of my favorite. I know all the bad words still and just basic stuff. But...
And then this thing on the right, T-shirt, right?
Yeah, that's for a T-shirt. Mastor.
I just really like that image.
Yeah,
like
that's him.
Orc thing.
Did you look around and see him? He does he puts on the big costume.
Oh, I didn't know any of that. No. I
yeah,
just thought it was cool
it's
design.
him as he has a shit. What's the video name? Check it out. Look up Mastor Self-Control.
Okay.
And this video is so well done. I think it's done by like a Grammy award-winning director, and it looks beautiful. And this guy, he dresses up as the monster, and it's like a stage act. It's really cool, and another super nice guy. You know what I mean? Such a pleasure to work with these people. Like everyone, I've never had a problem with anybody, and I'm glad of that. I'd have to drive around and smack them around if so. But yeah, no. Total pleasure. And that video is awesome. His whole character is insane. That I saw he had another video, and because he has like these platforms with hooves. How the hell you walk around with these hooves, And it's this big monster. It's like, and then his band's all these weird, like, just monsters. Like, I don't know. It's really cool, really cool.
I'll have to check him out. What country is the band?
He's in LA.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so all Hollywood stuff.
Neat. Well, cool, man. Any other things that you want to talk about, like in particular, that maybe I missed?
Yeah, I think you got everything. I'm trying to think. I mean, everything else is just kind of like I said, just wild stories and stuff like that. Like just going crazy and, just doing crazy shit. Like my art's just, like I said, it's more recent. It's always been kind of the hobby, and now it's like something that's full on, like before I just straight up like punk rock lifestyle, starting riots and with all my friends and just insanity and getting in a lot of trouble. And
now you're settling into your old man status.
Yeah,
out of it.
I love it. I that's what I tell people, like I'll never go back and regret like, oh, I should have done this and that. It's like I did it all and quickly. I did too much. And I tell my kids, they're like, well, what haven't you done? I haven't lit myself on fire. That's about it. Or you know what I mean? Like driven a car off a cliff. But pretty much everything else I've done, And
that's awesome, man.
It's been cool. And like I said, with just the young artists coming up, don't fool yourself. You know what I mean? Like, don't be, oh, I need this now, because it ain't going to work. It ain't happening now. No one has done something now unless it's a modern artist and they have, rich parents or something like that. But nah, with this kind of shit, it's all just what you put into it is what you get out. So you put in the time, it'll happen, like we'll see what with AI and stuff. We'll see how it goes. Like if they
That's
don't,
why I think it's important to have such a signature style and if you happen to know how to do stuff traditionally.
Yeah.
Got a few
Here's
years
the thing.
before that, you know.
It doesn't bother me so much. I think more like the bigger problem is AI becoming sentient. That's what I'm more worried about. Not the art, just like, well, what's it going to do once it decides, like the Terminator or something, you know, and just shutting down systems, or, you know, there'll be no control of it. And like the more digital arts are going to be more affected by it. So it's like, I do my niche thing, and people, they still want traditional art, and they want, you know, they want that painting, and so far so good, you know, like, and that's why I say learn as much as possible. If you like, there's such awesome digital artists, but they can also paint, and you know what I mean? Like they do it all. Like, I'm amazed at some of those guys. They're such good painters, and their digital art just blows me away, you know. But then there's a lot of stuff, it's all the same shit, you know, and it's just like, better you do it good on computer, but get a pen too and learn how to do it, you know what I mean? Otherwise you're gonna box yourself in, and when it comes, it's gonna come.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. So yeah, you kind of answered my question in terms of like what would be some advice you'd have for younger artists, but it seems like patience and persistence and finding the joy in it is the major thing.
And put the work in. Like, if you don't have a family or girlfriend or boyfriend, whatever, don't waste your time binge watching shows, or you know what I mean? Like, put that time into art, and later you can sit back and relax, you know, like, it's a lot. What is it? What is that? 10,000 hours to master something? And that's bullshit anyways. You're going to master nothing, but you will get so much better if you put that time in, you know, like, you got to put the time in. Since I was a kid drawing, it's an obsession. I have to draw, and I just like it, you know. And if you don't like it, figure something else out to do. I said, become a DJ or something. I don't know. Do something else, because like, if you don't have the passion for it, forget it, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, you got all the books. I heard a lot. You know, you have all these art books. Just pour through them and see what other people are doing and emulate. You know, don't steal their ideas, but try it out. You know, like, try to do some frisettas. Try to do, you know. That's how you learn. It doesn't mean you have to do their stuff, but you have to learn, and you got to learn all these rules. I mean, I don't follow any of the rules. I screw, like they say, don't do one side of the head and then the other, and that's exactly what I do. So it's always one eye and the other. That's why I have T-squares now. So I try to get it all done early on. And I used to oil paint, and I always did that. I'd focus on one side and then the other side. Different person. So just put the time in. You ain't going to get nowhere if you don't put the time in. Well, I said, for me, it took 20 years. So if you don't have the dedication to just not work a day job and just think you're going to be an artist, you're totally fooling yourself. Mm-hmm. Work that day job until you don't have to. And if you have to, big deal, you know, like, what you got to do, you know, like, I know a lot of musicians, they ain't making money off of music. They've been around, they toured everywhere. They're not, you know, they all work, you know, like, you just got to. And that's one thing I'm dreading, is like when I got to go back to a job, you know, and it's like, you can
see how long you can hold on to it, man. That's the chase, right?
Yeah. It's like, I don't mind. I like working, you know. It's like, I like doing all that stuff. I don't care what I have to do, you know. So
you got a good mindset, man.
Yeah, you have to. Strong work ethic, and you know what I mean. You got to have it. And a lot of people always coming up, and they always ask me, and I go, "You're young. give it at least a decade, man, because forget it. You ain't getting it when you're young." I haven't seen anyone just break through, you know, like I just remember seeing people in Juxtapause, and it's like, they're just, you know, they've been at it for however long. Same thing, 20 years, whatever.
It's also just what you want to do, you know, because like some people that are really, really skilled, and if they want something that's more like a traditional job, you know, okay, work at Pixar, but you're not going to be known for your own shit. You're going to be a cog. And like, that's the thing, is like, is that really appealing to you, you know?
Yeah. My photographer, he's an old ILM guy. So he worked on like Forrest Gump and Wolf and all those movies. He just got disgusted. I think he went to a different company. He worked on what was that? The Will Smith superheroes movie, and he's just like, I've had enough. You know,
What was that? Hitchcock?
Yeah, Hitchcock.
Yeah.
He has all these Emmys and stuff. I tell my kids go over to the house sometimes and like, take his Emmy and smash it on the ground and see what he does. But he got tired of it. That's what he said. Like, it's just becomes like, oh, this is bullshit. He said it was good in the early days, but now it just sucks.
Yeah.
Sucks your soul out, your creativity. But it's like, I don't know. Some people like it, Can't blame them. Like I said, I wanted to be an animator and a tattoo artist, and then I started tattooing myself. I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be a tattoo artist. If I can't erase it, I can't do this, Yeah. Too nerve-wracking. And I've done some horrible tattoos. Like, I fucked people up, you know what I mean? But it's like, hey, that's what I tried to warn you.
Yeah.
Yeah, too much pressure. I have a lot of respect for tattoo artists. Like, you got to have nerves of steel.
Oh, 100%, man.
I don't have that. I like to fuck up and fix it.
Well, Chad, it's been a pleasure, man. We obviously got to keep in touch.
Yeah, man.
Stay behind just for a second. Anybody sticking around, thank you so much. New episodes coming every other week. Please like, subscribe, share if you feel inclined. Until next time, we're out. See you guys.
Thank you. See you.